So, how did it go with the password cracking? I hope you managed to get your hands on some of the user's passwords. If not, this section is going to show you how to do that. Now keep in mind, for you to be able to get your hands on the password hashes or the encrypted passwords, let's call them that for now, you need to have root access. And these are the password hashes or the encrypted passwords that we need to be cracking to reveal the original password. If that sounds a little bit confusing, don't worry, I'm going to be showing you firsthand what I'm talking about. To start with, like I just said, we need to have root access. If we do not have root access or we do not have privileged access that allows us access to certain files, the password cracking attack is doomed to fail before it even begins. So here I'm rerunning the vsftpd exploit to get root access again to my target system. Once I have root access, the attack on passwords will begin. I verify that I have root access, and then I'm going to go and grab two files. The first file is the password file, and which usually lives under the /etc directory. We've seen this file before when we were talking about users. And I told you that this file has the information of all the users in the system. So if I cat this file, as you can see here, all of these users are users that exist on the system. Now, keep in mind that some of these users are actual users. So like Tom and Fluff or the other users that we've seen before. Some other users that you see here are not actual users or not actually human beings that will be using the system. However, they are what we know as service accounts. And these are accounts used by services. So for example, the MySQL service that we just attacked has an account because it needs to run certain programs, certain processes, and so on. For it to be able to interact with the system, it needs an account for itself. Notice, however, that the MySQL account towards the end has /bin/false. And this is what tells us that this account is not for a user, but it's for a service, because it does not have a shell access. If you look at another user, for example, the MSF admin, you'll notice that towards the end, it's /bin/bash instead of /bin/false. Meaning that this user, when it's able to log in, it will be presented by a bash shell, so it can interact with the system, it can run commands, and so on. You'll see also another difference in a second when we grab the other file. But for now, pay attention to this. That means that the users we'll be targeting are the users with the /bin/bash. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this file. And I'll save it in a file called password-file. I'll paste it here and I'll close the file. The second file that I need to get hold of is the shadow file. The shadow file again lives under the same directory /etc. So let me cat the file and notice here. Notice the user and the user service, for example. They both have this kind of gibberish alphanumeric string after the username. And these are what we call the password hashes. In other words, these are the quote-unquote encrypted passwords. Very similar to what we've seen in MySQL, these are the encrypted passwords for the Linux users. So they are not the users in the database, they are the users for Linux. So if I'm able to crack any of these passwords, I'll be able to steal the identity of any of these users on the Linux target system and run commands in the context of that user. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this file as well. And again, in Nano, I'm going to create another file, call it shadow file, and paste the content and save the file. Now, I'm about to use a tool called John the Ripper. John the Ripper is one of the most commonly used tools to crack passwords. For John the Ripper to work, I need to combine both the password file and the shadow file in one file, because John the Ripper understands a certain format. And I'm able to do that using a tool called unshadow. And all I have to do is run the tool called unshadow, feed it the password file that I just saved, the shadow file that I just saved, and redirect the output into a file that I'm going to later feed into John. In this case, I'm just going to call the file crackme. Now, if I cat the crackme file, you'll see that both the shadow and the password file are combined in one file. So for example, if you look at the user here, you'll see the username, password hash, the description of the user, the home directory, and the /bin/bash. All of these parameters are coming from 2 files, and now they are combined together in one file called crackme using the unshadow tool. Now that this step is done, I can use John to crack these files. And I can use John the Ripper in one of 2 ways, either as is or by feeding it a password dictionary, very similar to what we've seen earlier when we attacked the MySQL service. Let me start by running John as is, and this is very simple. All I need to do is type John and the name of the file, and you'll see that it is super fast. Very quickly, it has revealed 6 passwords for me. So now I have the password for the Postgres user, the user, MSF admin service, Klog, and sys. Obviously, I can keep this running until it finishes and cracks all the passwords. By the way, if you look at the output, John tells me that 7 passwords are loaded. So right now it's targeting 7 users. It managed to crack the passwords of 6 users. All that remains is 1 more user, which I'm pretty sure you guessed is the root user. Let me show you how we can run John using the dictionary file. I'll do Ctrl+C to interrupt, and notice in the output here, there's a sentence that says use the ---- show option to display all of the cracked passwords reliably. Keep that in mind because we're going to be using this later on. This is one of the things that trips people off a lot. To use John with the dictionary file, it's pretty straightforward as well. I just type John --word list equal. Notice here I'm putting a space, which I'm going to be removing later. I'm using the space so I can take advantage of the autocomplete. Without the space, the autocomplete will not work. So now if I type /user/share with autocomplete, Kali will automatically complete the path for me until I get to the roq file, which is the dictionary file. Now that I found the file, I need to go back and remove the space. Otherwise, John will not work. So please pay attention to this if you're trying to do exactly what I'm doing. And of course, at the end of the command line, I've already provided the name of the crackme file. I hit enter and John runs. And notice here the difference in the output this time. John already says that 7 password hashes are loaded. However, there's only 1 hash remaining to crack. Meaning that John somehow identified that this file, it has already worked on and already cracked the passwords before, already cracked the 6 passwords before, and all that's remaining is 1 more password. So it didn't re-crack the passwords all over again. Let me show you what I mean. If I do John crackme again, you'll notice that this time I don't get the output of the cracked hashes. Because like I said, John has already done the work on this file. It's already cracked these passwords. So it's not going to redo the work again, and in this time it's not showing me the output. However, that does not mean that I've lost the output. I did not lose the work that I've done. And this is one of the things that, like I said, it trips people off. People think all the time that, oh my god, I just lost everything that I've done. What are the passwords? Fear not. John has already told you how you can re-see the passwords, and all you have to do is type John --show and the name of the file, and here we go. We have the username, the password, and the rest of the information visible. So there you have it, guys. This is how passwords are cracked, and this is how you can take over user accounts. So now that I have compromised the system, not only do I have access as root, but I have the passwords for pretty much every other user on the system. Alright, what I'd like you to do is try to replicate exactly what I've done. And when you're ready, let's move on to the next section.